Hello and welcome. You are watching Business Today. I'm Neetu Chandra Sharma. At a time when the government is cutting GST on essential medicines, obesity drugs are gaining attention, and India is strengthening its role in global clinical research, AstraZeneca, with a portfolio spanning cancer, heart disease, diabetes, and respiratory care, is looking to expand its footprint. To discuss the company's plans, I have with me on the show Praveen Akkinepally, Country President and Managing Director of AstraZeneca Pharma India. Thank you so much, Praveen, for taking that time out for us. Welcome to the show. And I would like to begin by asking you that AstraZeneca has been growing steadily in India. Are you on track to sustain double-digit growth? And what are your revenue targets for the FY26?
First of all, thank you so much for having me, Neetu. It's great to be here. So AstraZeneca, of course, is committed to great science. As pioneers in science, we've really been investing significantly to bring the next generation of innovations to fuel our growth and to really meet the needs of patients. So in that context, we were excited to announce that we grew by over 32% in the last financial year. And in the first quarter of this financial year, we grew by over 36% compared to the same period last year. So certainly seeing that the great science that's coming through is translating also into some strong business outcomes.
Okay, I would like to ask you that the government has recently cut on GST on essential and life-saving drugs to reduce treatment costs for the patients. So how much of this benefit is AstraZeneca passing on to the Indian patients, especially in the oncology and rare diseases segment?
First of all, it is really very heartening to see the intentional efforts of the government to make many of these new innovative medicines, as well as medicines across the board, more accessible. So we really applaud the government for the progressive healthcare policies that they are advocating for, and actually the GST rate reduction is a great example of that. We are certainly committed in terms of passing on all of those benefits to the patients. We are working very hard to ensuring that. And I think that's a great example of how a broader swath of patients can access the latest innovations that are coming through in this field.
So another interesting segment that is emerging, which is obesity. It's a major focus in Indian pharma with Novo Nordisk and Eli Lilly. They've already launched their drugs in India. Is AstraZeneca also planning to enter this segment? And what is the timeline for an India rollout?
Yes, certainly. I think when you think about the unmet need, clearly in the context of obesity, you see this has become a global sort of pandemic. There is a lot of patients across the world, and certainly in India, that need new treatment regimens. And it's great to see that is the new science is translating into new options. AstraZeneca, of course, has a long history of investment and bringing scientific innovations in the context of cardio-renal and cardio-metabolic diseases. So that continues to be an area of focus for us, and we are working hard to bring the next generation of therapies in that context. For example, we have some oral GLP-1s that are part of our portfolio. But the other thing that we are looking at is that really appreciating the complexity of the disease. So it is not any one disease. There is a lot of sort of interconnected factors that play out when we think about cardio-renal and cardio-metabolic diseases. So hypertension and some of these comorbid conditions are also very much relevant. So we are not only looking at, for example, something like the oral GLP-1s, but we are also looking at combinations that really address the complexity of the disease. So we are very excited to bring those next generation of medicines. I think the timeline, of course, depends on how the clinical data will pan out, but this is certainly an area of focus for us at AstraZeneca as well.
So a lot of Indian pharmaceutical companies are working on these drugs, and the patent for semaglutide is expected to expire in 2026. So a lot of generic versions are expected to flood the Indian market soon. So how will AstraZeneca position itself in this space if it enters?
So, of course, AstraZeneca has always been focused on great science. So I think that is sort of the value that we bring in the context of addressing these unmet needs. So we will be focusing on the innovation and new innovative medicines in this context. And of course, that will be a different space compared to some of the generic medicines that might already be available. So I think we compete on innovation. And so we will be looking to build on the current advances with next wave of medicines. And hopefully the value that we bring in that context will really help patients and improve outcomes for patients.
So if I want to talk about your oncology portfolio, the cancer drugs that you have in your bouquet are actually often seen as expensive in India. How are you considering to lower down their costs, maybe through local manufacturing, tiered pricing, or any insurance partnerships to widen access?
Clearly, cancer has become really a big unmet need across the globe, and certainly in India, we are seeing increasing sort of numbers. And when we look at the across breast cancer, lung cancer, GI cancers, there is certainly a lot of unmet need. Now, this is certainly has been a big area of focus for us. We have a vision of one day helping cure cancer as a cause of death. And I know it's a very audacious vision, but one, of course, over the longer term, we certainly want to do our part in really making a difference in that context. And we are very excited about the innovations that we have been able to bring to this field, whether you think about immunotherapies, whether you think about antibody drug conjugates, when you think about very targeted therapies, because what we've realized is that we need to treat each patient based on the disease that they have. So precision medicine becomes really important in this context, and that has been a strength of AstraZeneca historically. So on one hand, we are looking to bring really precision medicines, and almost 90% of our portfolio is with precision medicines, to address in a very targeted way the needs of patients in oncology. And of course, as we look forward, we're always not only looking to bring innovation, but also ensure that we do our part in making that innovation accessible to as broad a group of patients as possible, and that is something that we will continue to work on.
Okay, AstraZeneca is also investing a lot in research and development. So would you like to tell us that what is the current clinical trial footprint here, and will you expand local R&D investments going forward?
So one of the things that we're really committed on is ensuring that we have a representation of patients from India in most of our clinical trials. So I'm excited to share that we now have over 60 clinical trials in India. We are in fact looking to run the vast majority of our phase 3 trials in India. That is something that we're working towards, so that we do have sort of data on patients from India as we look forward. So that is something that is already happening. Beyond that, of course, we're always interested in sort of engaging with the great institutes in India in terms of research and understanding sort of the unmet needs. That is another area that we are making quite a bit of progress on. So we will expect to see continued presence across the clinical trial infrastructure in India, and we also want to do our part in sort of supporting, continuing to enhance that infrastructure, and whatever we can do in collaboration with some of the big institutes in India, we are willing to do, both in terms of clinical trials, and also the other part that is very relevant here is diagnostics, because as the science advances, it is very important that we also, on pace with it, we have the right diagnostic infrastructure, and that is another area that AstraZeneca is quite focused on in terms of supporting.
Thank you so much, Praveen, for those insights. That was Praveen Akkinepally talking about outlook of the company going forward. While we follow what's next with the company, you stay tuned to Business Today for more updates.
Thanks so much, Neetu. Appreciate it.
If you like the video, do like, comment, share and subscribe.